JB and Bill, this is Triple M's Rush Hour Special Friday Podcast Edition.
Yes, please.
And speaking of podcasts, I've been listening to a few of late, Jimmy boy, and Howie Games is always good. And there's another one I've been listening to on Futility Closet, believe it or not.
Right.
And it's about this young boy called Lennie Gwyther, Jim.
Righto.
I don't know if you've heard about Lennie Gwyther.
I have not.
This is back in 1932. So sit back, Jim, get a nice cup of Milo and have a listen to Bill's story on Lennie. Now, Lennie is a very young boy. He's only 9 years of age,
Right.
Jim.
And what year are we talking?
1932, Depression. So you imagine, Depression, and he's 9 years old. He's from Leongatha, where Ruff and all those boys are from.
Yes.
Grows up there with his dad and his mum and helps out on the farm and does all that. And he's fascinated with bridges.
Ah.
And he went to Melbourne to see one of the big bridges opened there one day. But he's fascinated with the Sydney Harbour Bridge,
Yes.
Jim, which is about to open in a few months' time, okay?
Yep.
So he asks his parents, mum and dad, can he ride his horse, his little pony, Ginger Mick, to Sydney for the opening of the Sydney Harbour Bridge? His parents sit down, they have a think about it, and guess what? They say, yes, you can.
At 9.
9 years old, he packs up his little backpack and his, what do you call it, what they sleep on, the swag on his little pony called Ginger Mick, and they take off from Leongatha to Sydney, which is about 1,000 Ks, and he's 9 years old, Jim.
It wouldn't have been particularly well cleared in the early 30s either, I would have thought.
Well, you just don't go down the highway,
No,
down the Newell
exactly
Highway,
right.
Jim. You go, I think you're going through down back roads and paddocks and all that.
that's
Anyway,
it.
he takes off. It's going to take about 30 days, 1,000 Ks. And of course, word spreads, Jim. It's in the papers,
Yes.
and a small little crowd sends him off at Leongatha because they're all happy. It's a young boy, and they're obviously very worried about him too. So he takes off, and on the way, he's greeted. As I said, the word spreads, and as he's going along with his horse, some nights he stay under the stars and here and there, and then homesteads take him in, Jim, and then pubs know he's coming, so they take him in. He
hell.
stays at all the best accommodation.
That's
this
it.
is a true
The
story.
Bush
There you go.
Telegraph got to work on him.
Exactly right,
Righto.
Jim. And they had welcoming parties for him, and he was having a great old time. He got to Canberra. He met the Prime Minister. He stayed at Parliament House.
Oh.
And anyway, after 32 days and about 1,000 kilometres, he gets to Sydney, or 10 Ks out of Sydney.
Yes.
And then, as he rides into Sydney on Ginger Mick, his horse, people start cheering him all along the way and he's greeted by people
hell.
as he rides into Sydney. So he gets into Sydney and met by the Governor General or whoever it was, the Mayor of Sydney, Jim.
Yep.
And people just flocked to him because you can imagine back in 1932, he was a true Aussie, a dinkum Aussie, and he raised the spirit of the people. And they just loved him. A 9-year-old, can you believe
No,
it? A
I
9-year-old
cannot.
boy.
At any time, let alone the early 30s, riding that far on your own.
So he gets to Sydney, he's taken in, he's staying at really good accommodation, and of course it's the opening of the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and he gets invited along to that, and he rides his horse, Ginger Mick, from one end of the Sydney Harbour to the other end. They have the ceremony, the cutting of the ribbon, all that, and he's heavily involved in it. He meets Don Bradman over the next few days.
No way.
Yes.
He met
meets-
Don Bradman.
Met Don Bradman, who gave him a signed cricket bat and things like that. His old man comes up to see him, says, righto, son, you've had a good time now. I want you to, we'll catch the train home. He says, no, I'm going to ride back home. So he rode back to Leongatha, and he turned 10 by this time, so he was 10 years of age. You imagine the welcome he got back in Leongatha, and it's a great story. It only goes for 30 or 40 minutes. It's a beauty. Now I think there's a statue in the middle of Leongatha of Lennie and his horse Ginger Mick, right in the middle there. But it's just an unbelievable story of a 9-year-old riding to Sydney to see the opening of the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Where
It's
do
very good.
people catch up with it again, please, if they want to hear the complete story on podcast?
Futility, Futility Closet, it's called. Futility Closet.
Well, Bill, that is nuts for a 9-year-old to do that, especially, as I say, back in those days when travelling on a horse that far wouldn't have been easy. But
Exactly.
I remember, now this is obviously a completely different version of the same thing. I remember when my brother and I reckon we must have been 10 and 11. He's a year older than me or 15 months older than me. Either that or 11 and 12 maybe. My parents used to allow us to ride our bikes from North Beach in Perth to Yanship, which is about 50 k's, so nothing like old mate.
50 k's?
50 k's at 11 years of age. We used to ride up to Yanship, pitch our tent for a weekend with a couple of mates, and then we'd ride back, and that was the first time they allowed us to do anything that was, Now, Bill, that's
a good ride.
1970, what the hell's that, 79, around there. But my kids are a bit older than that. George and Fred are 15 and 13. But when they were 11 and 12, I would no sooner have allowed them on their own to get on a bike and ride down to Flinders and pitch a tent than fly to the bloody moon.
I know.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
But remember, I used to do that, ride down to the milk bar. You'd leave the bike out the front, mate. It'd stay out there for an hour. You'd be playing the
Pennies.
Pac-Man and pennies and all that. And you just come out. All the cars would be, the houses would be left open all the time.
That's it.
Yeah.
What has happened? But anyway, that's completely different
So
riding
Lennie-
from bloody Leongatha to Sydney on a horse.
Lennie Gwyther is his name. So well done. He died when he was 70. But that is a very good story.
It is. I like it. Get stuck into that podcast and hear it for yourself.
It's a Rush Hour, Triple M.